Baxter Springs.
Now we're starting to see the development out to the west as the rain is going to take us into some thunderstorm activity for the middle of the week. We'll have the latest from the Skywatch Weather Center. Also, the latest on an officer-involved shooting in Craig County, Oklahoma.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Cherokee County Sheriff's Office says the suspect in a Baxter Springs shooting should be considered armed and dangerous. This is the KOAM News at Noon. I'm Chris Warner. An arrest warrant was issued Monday afternoon for 38-year-old Sean Houston. He's wanted on allegations of attempted second-degree murder. Shortly after midnight on Monday, deputies were dispatched to investigate a shooting west of Baxter Springs. According to the Sheriff's Office, emergency medical personnel transported a man to a Joplin area hospital for non-life-threatening injuries. In their investigation, detectives identified Houston as a suspect. Anyone with information about his location should contact the Cherokee County Sheriff's Office. An afternoon fire destroyed a home and more in Columbus. It happened at Northwest Orchard Lane and 6th Street. In addition to the house, 2 storage trailers were destroyed. Columbus firefighters say no injuries were reported. Kansas Governor Laura Kelly vetoed a proposed ban on transgender athletes in girls' and women's sports. The Republican-controlled legislature previously approved a proposed ban with solid majorities in both chambers. However, neither had the 2/3 majority needed to override the veto. Governor Kelly rejected a similar bill last year. The Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation says a suspect waved a bow and arrow at law enforcement in a, quote, threatening manner in a Craig County officer-involved shooting. The OSBI says dispatchers were called about a chunk of concrete on the railroad tracks on 4400 Road about 7 a.m. Veneta police officers and Craig County deputies responded and found tracks in the grass from the railroad to a tractor on nearby property. Agents say the officers found Guy Walker going in and out of his house on the same property. They say when the investigators approached him, he pulled out the bow and arrow. A deputy and an officer both fired at Walker. Walker died at the scene. No officers were injured. Inflation has driven up prices on a number of items, and construction supplies are no exception. National Home Builders Association says building material costs have risen just over 20% year over year and are up 31% since January of 2020. Officials at the Joplin School District say they closely monitor those costs for their building projects like the new Dover Hill Elementary.
Keep the district informed, and keep the patrons informed of what's going on. We've had to take some small change orders and things to the school board that we've made available to the public, but it's important that we take the best care of the money available for this project as we can.
We've got showers, thunderstorms on the way. Not quite. They're edging into the viewing area.
Getting
right
into
now.
the far western portion right now of southeast Kansas, Chris. Say about 50 miles from the Missouri state line, give or take, is where the leading edge of it is right now. Developed on the other side of Wichita, and pretty good west to east movement. Here's where we stand right now. Most of the lightning has been left behind, but we are underway for what is going to be a wet middle of the week as everything progresses toward the central portion of southeast Kansas and then into southwest Missouri for the rest of the afternoon and evening hours. Most of the rain for today going to stay on the north side of I-44. Now, with that being said, even where we are seeing the showers begin, at least we're not in the midst of a cold front on the backside of it. As a matter of fact, some of our warmer temperatures right now are on that western edge of southeast Kansas where the rain started. You notice 63 in Independence. Compare that to 57 right now in Joplin. Keep moving to the east. Only 54 in Monette and in Stockton. And those are also the areas that have had the most sunshine and blue sky when we talk about what's out to the east. So low 60s, about as good as we're going to get. But you'll notice that little southerly breeze as that swings and gets that uptick to it. That's why it's warmer out to the west, because the wind is coming in just a little bit stronger. But eventually, for those of you out in the east who have the longest to wait before the rain does arrive, it's going to be a delightful afternoon. For those of you on that western edge, lock in, because we are now underway. As far as what we have on future track, while we'll go mostly showers for this afternoon, Really, overnight is when we're going to turn up the faucet. Then we see it along I-44, widespread for Wednesday morning with some heavy rain that comes down along with some thunder and lightning. Now, we keep on warming up for our afternoon highs, but the key factor here is, Chris, that the rain really doesn't want to stop until Thursday. As a matter of fact, we're now popping up as part of the severe thunderstorm risk map. We'll break down those categories when I see you here in just a bit.
All right, Michael, thank you. State investigators in Kansas have identified a woman killed in an exchange of gunfire. Kansas Bureau of Investigation says 32-year-old Andrea Barrow of Arkansas City was killed Friday in Cowley County after she pulled out a handgun as deputies tried to remove her from a vehicle. Investigators said 2 of the deputies are recovering at home. At last report, a 3rd remained hospitalized in good condition. Authorities say the deputies were responding to a call about a suspicious vehicle when Barrow pulled out the gun and, quote, gunfire was exchanged. Hundreds of high-paying jobs are coming to a new plant in northeast Kansas. Scorpion Biological Services plans to build a $650 million plant in Manhattan. Company plans to create 500 jobs at the new facility in the next 7 years. The plant will help develop vaccines to respond to global biological threats. Company has also got plans to work with Fort Riley soldiers transitioning out of the military. The proposal still requires local, county, and state approvals for incentive packages. Oklahoma Governor Kevin Stitt hopes to lure a company that could bring tens of thousands of jobs to the state. At a news conference on Monday, the governor said he's asking lawmakers to expand the state's tax incentive program to entice companies that bring high-quality jobs to the state. Stitt did not identify the specific company he's trying to lure, but indicated it's in the car manufacturing industry and that it would provide a lot of jobs.
We can land some of these major companies and these major manufacturing facilities. It will have a generational impact on the state of Oklahoma. Some of the studies and the research that we've looked at can show a company of this size can create up to 70,000 direct and indirect jobs.
Stitt says the state is looking at the opportunity to land one of the biggest factories in the nation. That's a look at our top stories and weather here on the KOAM News at Noon. Up next.
Russia launches the next phase of its offensive on Ukraine. I'm Natalie Brand at the White House with details of the discussions between the U.S. and Western allies to continue to support the war-torn country.
And later, Howard's joining us in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen, and he's making some cheese straws. Welcome back. The Pentagon estimates Russia has sent 11 more battalion tactical groups into eastern Ukraine. That would equate to about 8,000 to 11,000 additional soldiers. This comes as the Kremlin confirms it has started a spring offensive to capture control of eastern Ukraine. Natalie Brand has more details from the White House.
Ukrainian soldiers in the east are dug in and fighting back as Russia launched its long-anticipated offensive to take control of the Donbas region.
Another stage of this operation is beginning, and I'm sure this will be a very important moment of this entire special operation.
Russia says it hit more than 1,200 targets with missile and rocket attacks overnight ahead of the ground offensive.
We have continued to see the concentration of their airstrikes and artillery in the Donbas and in the south, particularly around and in Mariupol.
In that key port city of Mariupol, Russia once again issued an ultimatum to the last of Ukraine's fighters there to surrender. But Ukrainian forces are making their last stand at a steel factory in the war-torn city. President Biden held a video call with Western allies this morning to discuss next steps as another round of sanctions targeting Russia is expected soon.
We are definitely working on possible sanctions in the field of oil.
Western allies are also considering how to step up military assistance for Ukraine. The latest round of U.S. shipments have begun to arrive in the region, and that includes the new weapon systems such as howitzer artillery. Natalie Brand, CBS News, the White House.
Now, Ukraine has completed its application for membership in the European Union. The EU says it will fast-track consideration of the application. Still to come on the KOAM News at Noon, Mr. Food.
Today, I can't wait to introduce you to one of my all-time favorites. And I have a pretty good idea that you're going to fall in love as soon as you taste them, too.
But first, Rain, go away. Or not. Michael Hayslip returns with your full forecast.
Since we know we've got impending midweek rain on the way, why don't we open it up with a look at our daily almanac for this April the 19th. Concentrate on the bottom right-hand corner with our monthly and annual precipitation. Now, as far as the month of April goes, we are already about 1.5 inches ahead of normal, and we still got another about 1.25 to 1.75 inches on the way. And then if you go back to January 1 right there, that's just about an inch and a tenth above normal. So that's much better than what we're seeing as far as our April number. It's been a wet April so far through our first full 18 days. There we are over 7th and Rangeline. Thank goodness we got a little bit of a warm up here. The sunshine really did kick in, take effect coming off of a Tuesday morning that started us with frost advisories and freeze warnings for that matter. And that humidity, that's going to drastically increase here as we get into the afternoon hours, because once the rain begins, we're really going to be able to ride that all the way until Thursday. Relatively comfortable outside. We will fall far short of our average high this time of year, which would be around 70 degrees. We're topping out at 63 right now in Independence, and still as low as the mid-50s on the eastern edge of southwest Missouri. So here is the rain that moved in, originated on the west side of Wichita. Did pack some thunder and lightning when it first started. The lightning has really calmed down. Last strike we got right there, you can tell, was even to the west of our highlighted counties, west of Greenwood County. But then throw the arrows on there and it'll give you a good indication of where everything is headed right now. Just a little bit less than 50 miles before the southwest Missouri arrival. And as you drop down here to the south, that is why we know that the majority of our afternoon and early evening rain will be north of I-44. We really just don't have anything bubbling down to the south as of yet. Looks like the heavier rain is actually going to skirt our far northern counties for the time being. That is certainly going to change. Look at the big ridge of the jet stream, almost right over Joplin right there. It really doesn't play a role in our temperatures. Would be nice if we got under that, because certainly a nice little warming trend for the southern portion of the United States coming off of what was a chilly yesterday for everybody. Now, the high pressure that gave us that early sunshine now progressing east toward the Mississippi River. And so as it continues to track east, look what it's going to be replaced of on the left-hand side. Big low pressure moving in right now over the Rockies. Still a mess up in northeastern and New England portions of the United States. Good old-fashioned April nor'easter, packing snow and a whole bunch of rain up there. They not only have some high wind warnings, even got close to blizzard-like conditions, but are going to end up with winter storm warnings all the way for the next several days. So all of a sudden, maybe rain is not too bad to deal with. Here's what we've got for the rest of the afternoon. As the rain progresses and begins to spread, it will really be more intense and cover geographically more area by tomorrow. Future track shows us there we are sprinting along and staying to the north of I-44, and then Tuesday into Wednesday morning. Watch this thing come up from the south right now and then overtakes us. I want to point out right there on I-49. Now, give or take a half hour either way on the time frame. But let's go at 9:30 tomorrow morning right along I-49. That is torrential rain that will be packed with thunder and lightning as well. And we're going to give you an idea exactly what that means from the national perspective here in just a little bit. But as that rolls through, we're not quite done. It's deceiving. Looks like Wednesday we get a break. Well, Thursday morning we've got additional rainfall, this time Gulf moisture creeping in from the south and lasting pretty much into Thursday afternoon. Severe thunderstorm risk map does put us in the low category, and that's going to include high wind and possibility of hail. Now, we talked about that strip along I-49. Look at what happens if we slow it down from the national level, all the way from the Gulf Coast to the Canadian border at that point in time. So that is rather impressive. And then as everything moves east, watch Texas. Boom! That's our second round for Thursday that creeps up with that Gulf moisture. One thing I will say about our temperatures each and every day, at least those are increasing. And then, Chris, after the rain passes through Thursday evening, we're looking at a delightful end of the work week. 82, partly sunny skies on Friday. That'll be great.
That is delightful. Here's the deal. Even with the thunderstorm chances, these temperatures overall are starting to look pretty delightful.
We're getting there. We're slowly creeping up there. And a little bit more tolerable than having to worry about the rain coming in sideways and it feeling like it's 40 degrees outside.
See, now this though is why people say we have no spring or fall, because what's going to happen is we've had these cool temperatures, then it's going to get warm, and then the next thing you know, we're going to have a week of 60s, and it's going to be in the 90s the week after.
And it's going to be sweltering.
Yeah, yes. just like that.
Yes.
Michael, thank you so much. We take this time now to honor one of our many four-state heroes. Staff Sergeant Harold Spencer served in the Army during Vietnam and Iraq. His hometown, El Dorado Springs, Missouri. We're proud to recognize Staff Sergeant Harold Spencer, today's four-state hero. There's something very cheesy about this recipe. Today, Howard shows us how to make cheese straws in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen.
Today, I'd like to introduce you to the cheese straw. Now, for those of you who have grown up in the South, these need no introduction. After all, cheese straws are like deviled eggs. Every Southern cook has their own special way of making them. And whether we serve them with a bowl of soup, salad, or just as a snack, I promise once you try one of our easy homemade ones, you're gonna be hooked. To make them, all we do is combine some shredded sharp cheddar cheese, a good amount of flour, some softened butter, a little paprika, salt, and a dash of cayenne pepper. Now, using our hands, we mix this together until it forms a soft dough. You see, the warmth of our hands is the key to making a good dough. When that's done, we roll it out so it's about a 1/4 inch thick. Cut it into strips and place them on a cookie sheet before baking them off. What we end up with is the cheesiest pastry crisp that you could ever imagine. You see, the sharpness of the cheddar combined with the spices make these addictive. So why not go online and get the recipe for our Southern cheese straws? And if you add your own twist to these, don't forget to share it with us on MrFood.com. I'm Howard with Kelly in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen, where today we found a classic Southern way for you to say, ooh, it's so good.
This picture doesn't do those things justice. Now, Carrie and I were just discussing, she doesn't seem to like them. I think they look really delicious. Whether you think they're good or not, if you do, you can find this recipe and a whole lot of more good food from Mr. Food Test Kitchen online. All you have to do is go to KOAMnewsnow.com. Now, here's a look at four-state market prices.
Once again, the rain is underway for the western portion of southeast Kansas. Majority of it today staying north of I-44, but once it begins, it becomes widespread tonight into Wednesday. Thunderstorm activity along with some high winds, and Wednesday's a wet one, lasts all the way into Thursday. I guess the one silver lining about this is, number one, ground should be able to support it since we're going to spread it out during the course of 3 days. Number two, we do keep warming up. So it's not like we have a massive cold front coming in after the storm system hits.
It's been changing in a hurry.
Yes, it has. Now, quick glance at what's coming up at 5.
Well, at 5, President Biden travels to New Hampshire today to deliver remarks about the $1.2 trillion in infrastructure money passed by Congress last fall. Plus, Pittsburgh police officers take part in the Special Olympics torch run. And we're heading to Neosho for the FFA's annual plant sale. Hope you join us for those stories. A whole lot more, of course. It's all coming up today on KOAM News at 5.
And we thank you for joining us for the news at noon. Have a great afternoon.